This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Business News, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is a very competitive environment. It's about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week and the most remarkable story and a sleeper story, which is where we have to kind of look into the crystal ball, really, and figure out what story is going to be bigger down the track and is kind of flying under the radar for now. And then we also pick out our favourite story. And, of course, we never agree on any of them. We need somebody else to make the decision and apply a very unusual set of criteria to these stories. That person is our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Do you have your criteria handy just very, very quickly?
All right. Topicality, timeliness, economic impact, subjective bias, and melodrama.
Do you ever use any of those when you're judging?
Yeah, principally economic impact, Sean. Just as a tip,
Right.
I know we're only 3.5 years into the podcast, but there's a tip.
Yeah.
So that's the most important, is it?
I think that's the central pillar.
Do you like the fact that even as you were saying those just then, Adam, I was writing them down as though it was the first time I've ever heard them?
It's like fresh information every week.
Well, I remember economic impact and melodrama. They're the only two because that's basically me and you.
All right, well, bring on the economic impact with the biggest story of the week. Sean, you go first. What was it?
There's a standout in this. It's a bit hard to beat this one, Michael. I'm sorry. It was a big week for the economy, particularly inflation, because monthly inflation figures are showing the annual rate till the end of October came in at 4.9%, way below expectations. If inflation keeps falling, we can be pretty confident interest rates won't rise. This week's inflation figures pretty much ensures we won't get a 14th rate rise when the Reserve Bank Board meets on Tuesday this coming week. Ahead of the data, Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock said the banks need to be the Reserve Bank needs to be just a little bit careful about further rate rises. There's lots of moving parts to this, and the monthly number isn't as comprehensive as the quarterly number, but there's no doubt with inflation, the trend is our friend. And as Adam, the economist, knows, the trend is always your friend. Away from inflation figures, we had data from the Bureau of Statistics on the retail sector, building sector, and on capital spending. The gist of all that is that the economy is slowing, not disastrously, but probably enough. In fact, the OECD came out this week and said it expects the Aussie economy to expand at just under 2% this year and 1.4% next year. I think we should take that. That's a pretty good outcome. We would have taken that 12 months ago for sure. The fastest interest rate rises ever and not falling into recession. That's pretty good. So the biggest story for the week was definitely the economy. I'm not even going to mention markets, including the fact that the Aussie dollar hit a 3-month high of 66.5 US cents. Gold's trading back close to a 6-month high. And Bitcoin is back above 38,000 US dollars a unit on the back of comments from Fed governors. Not going to mention them. All about the economy. Michael.
What was that?
A comprehensive overview of the biggest story of the week. That's what that was.
That was a breach of the gentleman's agreement that we had, that we always said we wouldn't put the economy as the biggest story of the week because it is largely unbeatable. And we agreed to that.
Remember that after that first agreement that next week? Do you remember what happened, Adam?
I don't remember that far back, Sean. I live in the now.
Yeah, the first breach was recorded in week 1.
Yeah, and
Yes,
it wasn't by me.
That's irrelevant. One of us wants to just throw the rule book out the window. I'm not going to do that. If one of us wants to play dirty, that's okay, because I'm just going to focus on the story, because there is a bigger story out there this week, because the economy is it's always the biggest story. It's not very often that you get this coming along. In fact, this one only comes around once a year. And this year, the story is even bigger than normal, because we have discovered this week the scale of the challenge ahead of us to hit our emissions targets in this country. And that affects every part of the economy, every part of the business community and the business environment, all of us. It affects all of us because we have an emissions reduction target of 43% below 2005 levels by 2030. That's what we're trying to get to. But according to the Climate Change Authority's annual progress report this week, so there's only one per year, we actually went the other way in the last year. Emissions increased by 0.8%, with vehicle pollution and agriculture leading the way. Now, Federal Climate Minister Chris Bowen says that we can still do this by 2030, but it's going to require one heck of an effort over the next 7 years. And of course, I don't even need to say it, but if I just kind of look down the list of the criteria here, the economic impact, let's go with that one, that is going to have a major, major impact on business, because one of the main benefits to business of having these targets in place, of course, is the certainty over the environment in which they are operating. But these numbers now show that even more is going to need to be done, and that's going to require a contribution, a combined effort of everybody to get there. Now, the government says the decision to underwrite up to $60 billion in renewable energy projects will help us get there. That also shows just the scale of the money involved in hitting these targets, $60 billion. Now, it's also worth noting, just a quick little aside here, that the report called for traditional car sales to be banned by no later than 2040 and to end residential gas connections. Now, even though that car sales target, right, is 17 years away, and other countries like the UK have made a similar commitment, the government here has just basically rejected it straight up. Now, I would have thought that with such a massive kind of challenge ahead for the country, nothing would be ruled out at this stage, especially not something that's still kind of 17 years away. Anyway, it is a big story in politics. It is a massive story for the Australian economy. It's an enormous story for the business community, and it is a one-off. It only happens once a year. Adam, biggest story of the week.
Okay, firstly, caution, Aylmer, audible yawning.
Fascinating stuff that from Michael Thompson.
Throwing your competitor off his game there.
Adam, how do we put up with this? You and I we really do kind of...
I find it very funny. I have to keep the laughing down. Anyway, not to encourage disruptions, but it was funny. Michael, good story.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Damn it, he's done me first. Oh.
You lose on timeliness because I just don't feel that this is that new as news.
It happened on, Thursday?
It did, but this has been creeping for years. It's like we know we're not doing enough.
No, but the fact is that we are supposed to be reducing them every single year. And this came out, this bombshell report came out on Thursday and said, no, we're not reducing as we need to. In fact, we have gone up. This is, I need to sit down. The injustice. I'm stepping away from the mic.
Yes, perhaps off the podium for a start, and then you can sit down. Now, Sean, I was quite stunned by the inflation rate. I think that's such an encouraging drop, and I think everyone just breathed a sigh of relief that interest rates, thank God we can pause.
These are the monthly inflation figures that happen every month, right?
Yeah, but this was much lower than last month's, and it was brand new and very, very significant. So it was a good battle, really close on the points, but Sean gets the story this week.
What are you doing? Is that
gloating. That's what gloating sounds like. Okay. I got the biggest story of the week. I got to go first.
Michael gets to have a restorative sip of his coffee.
He does.
Come on back,
he
Michael.
Does. He's not happy.
Get back on top.
Did you see my coffee art that I sent you through the week?
I
Neither
did.
of you responded. I sent you because this is Voodoo X.
Yes.
Look at this. This is how shameless I am now. This is Voodoo X. It's one of our sponsors.
Okay.
And I sent you my photo of my coffee art that I perfected with my Voodoo X coffee, and
well done.
Neither of you responded.
Okay, I've had one too. I had a short black, and I actually, those unboxing videos? I got Lara to film me having my first sip of Voodoo X, and I'll send it to you. It's good.
Well, I won't be responding to your video that you sent through because you didn't respond to my photo that I sent. And that coffee art was very good. It was a very nice fern. You know what? I'm going to put that on Instagram. And I reckon I'll get more reaction from Instagram than I got from the two of you.
Game on.
Anyway, most remarkable story. Sorry, little detour there. Most remarkable story. Sean, you can actually just sit down for a moment. You don't even need to enter a story into this category because I've got this one stitched up, as they say.
Stitched up.
It is remarkable that even with the cost of living crisis, with interest rates up, with energy prices so high, the cost of filling a grocery basket through the roof, we still set a record for shopping during the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. Now, Australian Retailers Association Chief Executive Paul Zara said that what they were looking at, $6.36 billion across the 4-day period. Now, that's up 3% on last year. A few reasons for it. Steeper discounts, really. On average, retailers cut prices by as much as 30% compared to 26% last year. Now, apparently, we were buying clothing, we're buying personal care, which I don't know what that is, shoes.
What? Hold on.
What?
Why are you blushing about personal care?
Doesn't it sound slightly kind of
What?
kinky?
Deodorant? Soap?
Oh, well, we didn't spend $6.36 billion on soap.
Have you looked into this, Michael?
Anyway, those were the main categories. Clothing, the very enigmatic personal care, shoes and jewelry, more than anything else. That's what we were buying. Shopify says the average basket size was $165.70. Now, probably the biggest demonstration of the way shopping has changed over the years is the fact that almost 3/4 of sales were from mobile devices. Isn't that incredible? People are shopping on their phones, not on desktop computers, not in bricks and mortar stores, which was echoed by the David Jones CEO, who said that they've seen foot traffic recently down by 5%, confidence obviously being hit by interest rate rises, which is what he was saying. Then you got Jerry Harvey from Harvey Norman, obviously, acknowledging that they've had a pretty sluggish 5 months before things picked up in recent weeks, thanks, obviously, in part to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. In fact, he made the point that given the success of this shopping period, it's expected that Christmas could actually be a little quiet for retailers. But isn't that remarkable for 2 reasons? Number one, that we're spending so much despite the cost of living. And number 2, the other thing that I find genuinely remarkable, and this is not just kind of me trying to kind of make this out to be bigger than it is, because I would never do that. But I just find, don't you think it is extraordinary that Black Friday and Cyber Monday have become such a major event on the retail calendar, and it didn't even really start in Australia until 2013, because it had been in the US for a bit longer than that, but it wasn't until 2013 that Apple actually started offering kind of Black Friday pricing in Australia as well. And that was when everyone else kind of piled in and said, okay, we're going to do this as well. So in the last decade, we've basically seen this retail sales event come out of nowhere and become essentially almost the largest retail event of the year, around which so many businesses now plan their entire year of retailing. I just find that remarkable, genuinely remarkable.
Look, my most remarkable story, I just actually have to quick shout out to last week's most remarkable story, because this isn't my entry into it, but last week the OpenAI Sam Altman stuff came up. Now, did it win last week?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it did.
It did. So this is it.
I did as well.
Just as a little addition to last week, he actually got the job again. So, we're talking about the fact that he was sacked and then got Microsoft employed him, and then Microsoft said, why don't you go back? And he said, I will if the board goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I got the job back this week. Amazing. Remarkable. Well, this has a history, this story, but it's all about this week. The fact is, Origin Energy is very, very unlikely to get enough shareholder votes to go ahead with the near $20 billion takeover by Brookfield and EIG. Why is this remarkable? Because a couple of months ago, Michael won this category when he came out and said it is truly remarkable that the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has agreed to Brookfield and EIG buying Origin Energy on the basis that it's going to improve Australia's greenification. Adam loved it. And I'm there saying, but the deal's not done. How can this be? I was flabbergasted. Now, I'm not one to gloat, as we showed in that bigger story. However, it is a remarkable story anyway, because what happened, Brookfield came back with a second bid. The way the transaction was created meant it only needed 50% of shareholder votes, or 50.1%. The Brookfield board knocked it back. Hence, we go to a vote on Monday. AusSuper owns about 17% of it, of Origin Energy, doesn't like the deal. As a result, the bid won't get through. The bid price is like $9.39, I think, and Origin's trading around that 820, 830, 840 level. So obviously it's a much higher price. But what's remarkable, the bid's not going to go ahead. That's remarkable. And the fact that Adam thought 2 months ago that it was a remarkable story, and Michael agreed. Michael won the category. Now, I don't hold on to things, but which two people of this trio are looking just a little bit silly now?
Okay. So just for the record, 14 October was the date. And I thought I came up with a really good headline, which I very rarely do, in summarising the story by Michael. Green light for green energy. And actually the reason that Michael won was because the regulator had approved it, not because it happened or hadn't. Not that I'm holding on to things either.
Yeah.
So I do think it's remarkable the Origin Energy takeover is unlikely to happen. I think the whole strategic play by Australian Super, because they clearly believe it's not enough value, I think that is really remarkable. I do think, though, Michael has to get this story this week for Black Friday, Sunday, Monday weekend. 3/4 from mobile devices. I didn't know that. And foot traffic in stores down 5%, right? So there's so many forces here on the cusp of Christmas when people do their buying. Boxing Day sales have moved forward. There's just so many strands to this that I find it very interesting. Good battle. Michael just wins this one.
My arguments always sound so much more intelligent coming out of Adam's mouth.
I love it when Adam adds to it.
Gee, Sean's story was much closer than I thought.
What? Are you changing it?
No. Very good, though.
Don't you add on extra points now. I'm watching you. I'm watching your pen on that page. And if I see, don't do it. All right, we'll be back in a sec with the sleeper story of the week. All right, we're looking for the sleeper story of the week now. So a sleeper story is one that's not getting the attention that we might feel that it deserves, or perhaps is going to become a bigger story further down the track. Sean, I think you get to go first on this one.
Adam, the revolution has arrived. Now, it's been a big week this week. We had some significant deaths, including Shane McGowan, whom more than anyone, as an Irish singer, would understand the revolution. And Adam, you'd be a fan of Shane McGowan, wouldn't you? The lead singer of the Pogues? Yeah.
Particularly at Christmas time, some of those.
Yeah, it's Christmas in New York. Anyway, the revolution has arrived, and he'd be proud that it's happened. It's here. The 5-day working week will never be the same. And I'm not talking about white-collar workers. This is why it's different. I'm talking about people who serve people in shops and in banks and in grocery stores. Some major retailers came out this week and said they're offering up to an extra week's leave a year in an effort to attract staff. IKEA has agreed to increase more than 4,000 workers' paid leave from 20 to 25 days a year as part of an agreement with the retail union that also bans casual hires. It enshrines offers to work a 4-day week. Very significant. Bunnings and Apple are doing similar deals. And remember, these are all people who work face-to-face with people. Earlier in the week, Big W reached an agreement to allow 15,000 staff to choose between higher pay or an extra week's leave. Adam, the revolution is here. Billy Bragg will be singing about this very, very soon. Shop Distributive and Allied Employees Association, that's the union, says 5 weeks of leave should be the new standard. It sort of is concerned that Australia's once generous 4 weeks leave is falling behind other countries. Now, employers like it because they want to rid the perception of retail jobs as being transitory. They want more long-term staff. As a customer, I love the idea that it's a long-term staff. Some countries, France, Finland, Sweden, Norway, they actually already have legislated 25 days annual leave. They also get about 10 public holidays. We get about 12 public or 11 to 13 public holidays, depending on which state you're in. Now we are shifting to 25 days annual leave. We are catching up with the rest of the world. What a sleeper story. This is the revolution in real time. And by the way, before you go on, Michael, you go on about the person of the, what do you say? I'm for the worker. I'm a person of the people. Man of the people, whatever the crap is that you are. In this instance, right, I'm not talking about your hoity-toity white-collar bankers. I'm talking about the man in the street, the man that's actually serving me at Bunnings, an incredibly helpful man who somehow knows where everything is in that massive store. That's who I'm talking about. The revolution is here.
See, when you claim to be a man of the people, I'm pretty sure the people can just see straight through this. Whereas when I say it, it comes from a place of sincerity.
Humility.
Indeed it does. Anyway, look, the people are with me. Sleeper story. This is an interesting one, and it's an interesting one because it is the winner today. Because there's a pretty alarming trend developing among small businesses in Australia, and it has the potential to become both a major headache and a major story further down the track as well. Now, the tax office has warned that small businesses are increasingly using unpaid tax and superannuation liabilities to prop up their cash flow. Now, there's been a spike in unpaid tax from the sector. In fact, when you look at the figures, the ATO says more than 2/3 of the $50 billion in collectible debt is currently owed by smaller companies. That is significant. Now, why is it a sleeper story? Very good question that you're asking there with your eyebrows, Adam. Because this week, the ATO warned that they will be cracking down on this next year.
It's a funny word, crackdown, isn't it?
It's a very kind of visual kind of thing, isn't it? And it's also got a bit of sound to it.
What do you think about when you hear the word? What's the visual you get, Michael, when you hear the word crack down?
It feels like you're trying to lead me into saying something that's inappropriate. And I would never do that because my sole goal here is to keep this show out of the gutter. And you just seem kind of it's like you're determined to push us back down into it. Look, the crackdown that's going to be happening next year shows that this is just the beginning of this story. So we just saw the genesis of this. Therefore, it is a sleeper story this week because we will be hearing a lot more about this in the next 12 months. Indeed, the ATO has already started handing over debt information on more than 10,000 businesses to credit bureaus. Now, this story, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this story ticks all of Adam's boxes. Now,
how many boxes has he got?
I think he's got 5.
Timeliness,
melodrama, and topicality and economic impact. Obviously, I mean, timeliness had happened this week. So there we go. And it's still happening and it will be happening
because
into next year.
The ATO's never had a crackdown before, have they?
Well, small business in particular make up such a huge part of the Australian economy, and we have so many small businesses listening to us as well that they may be hearing about this for the first time right here, right now. Timeliness, let's just tick that box together. Economic importance, we know how important SMEs are to the economy, so we'll tick that box. I don't remember the other couple. Melodrama, that's the only thing missing here. The only thing missing is melodrama. So even without that, even without me dressing this up, this story should win because it's not getting much attention, but it is a major chilling warning to the small businesses of Australia that the ATO is watching, it is waiting, it is checking its list. It is kind of like Santa.
It is very much like Santa Claus.
There we go. Adam, over to you.
Good battle. Both stories are very, very high on my subjective bias. I love tax reform and I love the changing in the working week. So it's really a good battle between you both. I think that Sean has to win this one because of the impact and the breadth of the hundreds of thousands of people that will fall under these roles and their changing nature, businesses having to change, people getting to look at their lifestyle in different ways. That's just got so much human impact. Whereas I think that the ATO issue is just a little narrower in its small to medium-sized enterprise application.
Excellent decision. Excellent decision.
I'm okay. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to hold on to this.
2-1 in the story count.
Okay, let's move on to favourite story, shall we?
He's looking confident.
Let's see how Adam goes with this one. So, favourite story, there are a couple of options this week, and I didn't quite know which way to go with this. And I'm hoping that in choosing one particular story, Sean has chosen the other story that I was tossing up between, and in doing so, we'll have set Adam up for a very uncomfortable decision to make.
Not that we have discussed this ahead of time.
No, never. So anyway, I want to talk about the incredible life and career of Charlie Munger, one half of the partnership behind Berkshire Hathaway. Now, the long-time offsider of Warren Buffett died this week, aged 99, but he certainly left his mark on the business world, earning a reputation as one of the greatest investors ever, which is obviously very significant to a business podcast. Now, over the last 60 years, Charlie Munger played essentially the straight man to Warren Buffett, becoming quite famous for his one-liners and his very level-headed approach to investing, and they certainly made a very formidable pair when you think that Berkshire Hathaway started as two separate cotton mills way back in the 1800s, which is obviously a long time before kind of Warren Buffett bought it. But anyway, it's just a nice little bit of colour, isn't it? He bought it as a struggling textiles company in the 60s. Now, Buffett and Munger then started acquiring businesses and following the principle of value investing, and over time turned that textile company into a US $800 billion behemoth. Railroads, utilities, energy, insurance, even household names like Duracell come in under the Berkshire Hathaway name. Now, from 1965 to 2021, the company averaged an annual gain of 20.1%. Now, $100 invested in Berkshire Hathaway back in 1965 would be worth around $2.5 million today. Isn't that incredible? Just $100 way back then, $2.5 million today, which takes me to one of Charlie Munger's quotes, of which there are many. He said, "The big money is not in the buying or the selling, but in the waiting." And I just love that, because one of the defining kind of qualities and the features, he lived for so long and he was implementing these strategies over such a long period of time. I just find this is quite remarkable. It's an incredible career. And considering the amount of money he also gave to charity as well, an incredible legacy. And I just wonder whether he ever had a brother named Fish.
I told you I met Warren Buffett once. I've told you this story on air.
It's a ripper.
It was in the bathroom. And so you can't shake hands when you're in the bathroom, can you?
No.
Very awkward.
You've met a few people in the bathroom, haven't you? Didn't you? I'm going somewhere with this. Didn't you once meet James Bond in the bathroom as well? Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig. He was at that state of I don't know if there's a rugby game or a rugby league game, State of Origin or something, and he was the guest. And I mean, yeah, same issue. Don't shake hands when in the bathroom.
Just a polite wave.
He said, look, I was there with my mate Mick, and Mick's a funny fella, and he got me very excited, as he does, Mickey C. And we'd had a few beers, and we're in the bathroom. You know, you need to go to the loo after having a few beers. And it was Daniel Craig. And so we obviously introduced ourselves and made a big thing about it. And he just looks at us and goes, "Oh, boys, I'm just trying to take a piss." So, Fair point, Daniel. Off you go. You do that in private. And let me tell you about my biggest story. No, not my biggest story. My favourite story. I'm going to use pretty much the same intro as Michael. It's hard to go past this one this week. The incredible life and career of Henry Kissinger. The great American diplomat died this week at the age of 100 in his home in Connecticut. He lived a year longer than Charlie Munger. Not that should matter in the judging, I'm just pointing it out. Incredible career. He fled the Nazis as a young boy from a Jewish family, then fought them in the United States Army. He was a controversial Nobel Peace Prize winner who served under 2 presidents and left a mark on US foreign policy. Kissinger had been active past his centenary. In fact, he was at meetings at the White House. He visited Xi Jinping in July this year. He also testified before Senate this year about nuclear threat posed by North Korea. So he was involved in some of the game-changing, life-changing, world-changing stuff that happened in the 70s. Think of these sorts of things. So he was Secretary of State under Richard Nixon. He basically helped open up diplomatic relations with China. The landmark US-Soviet arms control talks, he was front and center at that one. He helped expand ties between Israel and its Arab neighbors. Also the Paris Peace Accords with North Vietnam. Incredible. But let's look beyond those achievements. Apparently in his day, he was a ladies' man. He often appeared with starlets and such. Little did I know. His ego was spectacularly large. That's according to former US President Jimmy Carter. Carter has some great quote along the lines of Henry Kissinger never actually realized he was wrong. He wasn't always subtle. For example, he called Indians, the country, Indians bastards over the India-Pakistan war. He did later apologise for that. He disliked communists big time and wasn't averse to plotting to overthrow governments. Quite an incredible career. Few people in the time since, Roe v. Wade, back in the late 60s, few people have had such an impact on the globe as Henry Kissinger. Adam, Charlie Munger v. Henry Kissinger.
Business podcast v. politics podcast. Take your pick.
See, Kissinger had so many impacts in a global peace sense, and that does impact business through helping certainty and diminishing risk. So,
as I was going to say, if I had the time, yes. Michael and I have been so excited about doing this together and just watching you squirm.
Yeah,
we knew that
I can't split them. They're both such impressive individuals.
And remember, they were both on our list of remember we made that list a while ago on the podcast of anyone over the age of 90 that we would like to invite to a dinner. And Henry Kissinger was on there, Charlie Munger was on there, Warren Buffett was on there. I think the Queen was on there.
She was.
Ouch.
And so, yeah, anyway.
So I can't split those. That's a tie. Those two stories are both magnificent favourite story choices.
Okay, 2.5 to 1.5. It's going to all come down to the points then.
Yes, it does.
No. Game over. No, it's not about points. I'm sorry. The game is over. 2.5 to 1.5. That's it.
Finished.
That's it. It's not like the for and against in a footy game. By the end of the season,
no extra time.
It's not like for and against points. It's actually who's got the most points.
Who did get the most points on the story count or the whatever it is?
I'm so glad you asked, Michael. You got 90 and Sean got 93.
As I said, it's an excellent idea to bring in the points. Let them know.
It's been an extraordinary exchange of ideas today and
Nicely
and
put.
some interesting judging. But anyway, congratulations on your victory, Sean, and congratulations on your judging, Adam. Thank you for your service, Adam.
Participation. Great.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with the right word. I'm like, participation? No, it seems a bit kind of false. Service seems wrong. Just thanks for being here.
It's been a pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
And thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Adam.
Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed Business News. Have a great weekend.